right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rear Review. I'm your host, Warbucks, and today we're going to talk about Fantastic Four: The First Steps. All right, so there's a lot riding on this movie because this movie it's like the first movie that kind of takes us into the MCU, into this whole new phase that they're setting up, where they're bringing in our new big bad, and this movie is like marks the beginning of that. So there was a lot riding on this movie being of good quality and a decent movie. At least a good movie. And so Marvel really needed to knock this one out the park. This is kind of a defining moment for them. And just some quick history on the Fantastic Four. The first time I really got introduced to the Fantastic Four was back in the early 2000s. The movies that were made back then, which the first one was pretty good. It was straight. I feel like the casting for the Fantastic Four was a pretty good casting. I feel like the movie was pretty decent. It was pretty good. I feel like the second movie was lacking. I think they had a really dope Silver Surfer, and I feel like the Silver Surfer was dope in that movie, but I feel like the overall movie wasn't that good. I mean, they didn't even give us a real good depiction of Galactus in that movie. And so I kind of feel like they really dropped the ball, because that's a super major villain in Marvel, and within the Fantastic Four period, that's a major villain. And so you can't mess certain villains up. I feel like they did Doom well, though. They definitely did a good job with Doom. But I feel like they messed up. Galactus, and they just screwed up the whole movie. The movie was stupid. They really did. I mean, Doom died in the first movie. They didn't even really explain how he came back. They just brought him back with no real explanation. They just really screwed the pooch on that second movie. Then they remade it again in later years. I think the director's name is Josh Trank. Might be, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong about that. I'm really just trying to pull in this straight from memory, but if I remember correctly, I think his name was Josh Trank, and he wrote and directed a Fantastic Four. He had did the Chronicle prior to that. And both of these movies were made by Fox, who own the rights to Fantastic Four. So the MCU at that time could not bring them into the MCU because Fox still owned the rights to them while they were building their world and building all the things that we got to see. Some of the greatest superhero movies we've ever seen of all time were created without the Fantastic Four being present in the world. They definitely should have been there, because in the comic book, Fantastic Four and the Avengers all kind of work together at certain points in the comic book. So there's a lot of things we missed out on because Marvel or Disney, whatever, didn't own the rights at that time to those characters. But they've obtained the rights from Fox to use the Fantastic Four. And of course, they have that deal with Sony to use Spider-Man, and that's why we're able to get those within the Marvel Universe now. And of course, I think they're also supposed to be bringing in the X-Men soon. I believe it was at the end of Thunderbolts, after the end credits, it was either mid or at the end, they showed the Fantastic Four. They showed their plane flying into they showed the Fantastic Four ship coming in, and it kind of got us excited. I know it got me excited, and anybody from the comic book world letting us know that they're bringing them in. They're bringing them into that Earth, because this Fantastic Four is done in a whole different Earth. Because remember, there's a multiverse, and in Spider-Man, No Way Home is when we find out that there's other verses. There's a multiverse, and there's other verses out there, meaning there's other universes within a big planet of different universes. And so we're on a certain Earth in this movie, and they're on a different Earth in the Fantastic Four. They're not in the same Earth, I believe, that we know, the one that we've been watching, our universe. And that's a great way to explain why the Fantastic Four wasn't there during all these adventures to help try to save the world when all these things were going on, is because they were in a different universe this whole time. And so, but yeah, so Josh Trank pretty much really screwed up. He made a whole movie that almost didn't even feel like it was very too loosely based off the comic book. Not enough. He just made a whole nother movie that had nothing to do with Fantastic Four and its real origin story. They just included the same characters and made a whole nother mess of a movie that was nothing like the Fantastic Four we know and love from the comic books. And so now this third chance around, we've got two different origin stories. We get into this new Fantastic Four where they start off showing a documentary style beginning of, they show a documentary style beginning origin story of how they got their powers. I believe this movie is shot in like the 1960s somewhere, and they got this old school style, documentary style of them going off as astronauts into their ship and going off into space, and they come back with powers. They show all of it's all documented, and they come back and it just shows them fighting crime in different ways, stopping different criminals. And we got our Fantastic Four. We got Mr. Fantastic, the leader of the group, the father per se of the group, and he pretty much kind of runs everything there. He's the smartest man on the planet. He's a doctor, scientist, all that good stuff. He can stretch his arms and legs, like he's pretty much like elastic in the way he stretches. And then you got Sue Storm, who is his better half, his wife, and she's, invisible girl where she can make herself disappear. She also has other powers that she can use where she can, push certain things with her invisibility powers. And then you got Ben Grimm, the Thing, who Mr. Fantastic's best friend. He is this big rock monster that has super strength, who can pull things. In some of the scenes, in one of the scenes, you see him pulling a whole boat by the chain rope. He's pulling it off the shore. And then you got Johnny Storm, who is Sue Storm's little brother, who can flame himself and, fire and fly and fight. And so the beginning of the movie is basically just them saving a lot of people, saving a lot of lives, showing how great they work together as the Fantastic Four. It's pretty cool. That's the first thing I think I really noticed about the beginning with the action, was that it just showed really, really well how they work together as the Fantastic Four, taking down bad guys and doing all that cool stuff. And I just really enjoyed the beginning of the movie because we got a nice little introduction. They kind of skipped through all the intro, the long introduction in this movie because we've already seen two different introduction movies to Fantastic Four up until now. They just kind of get straight to it with the documentary style. I like that. Very similar to Superman, similar in that sense that they kind of just skip and kind of get straight into it. And so after they show all of that, they cut to a scene where Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm are in their rooms. Sue Storm is in another room while Mr. Fantastic is trying to get dressed, trying to get ready. And I believe Sue Storm comes out the bathroom and says she's pregnant. And so, Mr. Fantastic, they're kind of shocked. They hug each other. They love each other. There's this, he's excited to welcome a kid into the world. But, the way Mr. Fantastic is, the way he thinks, he's like already thinking way too far, over worrying himself about the child and all that and all the things that could happen to the child. What if this child has powers and all that good stuff? And so they share that little moment. And I think they talk about it and they say they gonna wait to tell the other half of their family. And so they're getting ready for the family dinner that they typically have because the Fantastic Four is all one big happy family. And so I believe they cut to the scene where you got Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Johnny Storm, and they're preparing the dinner. They're setting out the plates and the bowls and everything. It looks like they're gonna do spaghetti, and I believe they were in the process of cooking, finishing up, trying sauces, having a good conversation, sharing laughs, jokes. I think Ben Grimm sits down when they set the table and he notices they're late and they're never late, so something's wrong. And then when they finally show up, they apologize. I'm not sure if they give them some type of excuse, but Ben immediately recognizes that Sue is pregnant. Now that is pretty amazing. Like, he notices she's pregnant before anything. Like, I'm talking about, it doesn't take him long at all. And it's very impressive how quick that he does that, how quick he's able to pull that off. And so then they go ahead and tell him they were kind of gonna wait, but now they done figured it out. So they go ahead and own up to it, and they talk, they embrace, hug each other, and they're like, man, we're gonna be uncles and all this good stuff. And so it's a pretty cool moment to see them embracing, and Ben knowing his best friend, Mr. Fantastic, he tells him not to stress himself out, worry too much about the kid and all the possibilities and everything. And so I believe the next thing that happens is Silver Surfer flies in. Now, the first thing we notice in this movie is we get a female Silver Surfer. Now, this is different. We've never gotten a female Silver Surfer in a movie. Silver Surfer typically is a male. I don't believe we even got one at all in the last remake, but in the second movie, there was a Silver Surfer. They did a good job with him. He looked dope. Everything was dope about him. But this time, they decided to go and switch it up this time by giving us a female Silver Surfer. And this Silver Surfer is played by a character from a show that I love and I watch that has ended on Netflix. Great show about a family where the father realizes that he has been laundering money and has a company that's technically a front for the cartel drug department. He doesn't realize that because the other guy that runs the business with him is the one who was doing the dealings and didn't make him aware. And I believe he ends up dead, and that's when he finds out, because now the cartel is now set to work with him to launder their money. And so the girl in that movie, she in that show, she is playing the Silver Surfer in this movie. And so she comes in, she's doing a good job acting, you know. The Silver Surfer is kind of like a monotone kind of character. No real emotion, alien, silver, whole body is all connected to the surfboard, and them is all one, all connected. She flies in and tells them that Galacticus is this big being that travels the world and takes planets. And so that this planet is next, and that they need to give their planet up to Galacticus. And I believe that Mr. Fantastic speaks back and he says, "No, we're not giving up this planet." And I believe that they have their back and forth, and then he says he's not giving up the planet, and Silver Surfer says they have a certain amount of days, and then the Silver Surfer leaves. And so I believe that right away, Mr. Fantastic tells everybody that they're gonna go off into space, go out and talk with Galactus and see if they could figure out a plan to try to stop him from coming and taking their planet. And so he gets everybody all together. He gets everybody together, gets them all ready, gets them their suits. They go off into space to go meet with Galacticus to try to talk with him and figure out what's going on. Now, in this world, I'm noticing a lot of different things. First of all, this movie is, I already said, it's shot back in like the 1960s, but they have a lot of futuristic technology. The cops are driving around in flying cars. Like, it's looking like Back to the Future or Blade Runner or Minority Report. Like, it's looking futuristic, like Jetsons, but it's old school. It's shot in the old time. And this just goes to show you, when you got a man like Mr. Fantastic, who has, not only these superpowers, but he's also super smart, that he has this ability to create all these futuristic pieces of tech, like a flying car and all of these things. He has the ability to create all these things in such a past historic world. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool to see all of that in this movie. And so, so anyway, using some of his futuristic technology, he's tracking the whereabouts of this Silver Surfer girl, last known whereabouts. And they go in, they find her. Johnny kind of finds her, and he kind of talks to her a little bit, has a brief conversation with her. And if you know anything about Johnny Storm, he kind of is a ladies' man. That's kind of his whole thing. He's a ladies' man. And I believe in this movie, he kind of has this little thing with the Silver Surfer where he kind of has a little crush on her. But they have their little moment out there in space. And so he talks with her. And then I believe their ship that they're in gets pulled in by Galacticus. He pulls them all the way in. And with Galacticus' power, he's able to sense that Sue Storm is pregnant. And he also senses that the child that she's pregnant with is a super duper powerful being, more powerful than just a super, super powerful being, somebody that could take on the mantle that Galactus is suffering from, that he has this hunger for these planets that he feeds on, and he feels like he could pass that down, his mantle down to Sue Storm's child, who he senses this superpower from. Now, Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, Mr. Fantastic said he's already ran tests on the child and he didn't sense any powers, and then Galactus tells him that he's hiding the powers from them. And wow, when he said this line, I'm in the theater like, what? This, you know how powerful a child has to be be able to hide his powers from his own parents, and he ain't even came out the womb yet? That is crazy. I was super, super impressed. I was just like, wow, because I'm gonna be real with you, I really don't know a lot about the Fantastic Four's future story. I know about their base story, the most known story about the Fantastic Four, but I don't know a lot about them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know a lot about his kid and how powerful he is. I don't know anything about him. So this is pretty cool that we're getting this introduction to his child, who is so powerful that he's able to hide his powers from his own parents while in the stomach. And so that was really, really cool to find out. We know how this guy has to be super powerful if he feels like Galactus can hold it in. Now, mind you, they show us Galactus for the first time in this movie. Now, one of my biggest gripes with the early 2000 Fantastic Four was that Galactus, that is not a good representation of Galactus. I think it was like some dark cloud coming over. It was like, what in the world? That's not how Galactus looks. And so in this one, we got a great depiction and a great look of Galactus. The way he looked, he's like this huge giant. And when you look and you see his face and everything, he looks exactly like Galactus. They did a great job. His voice was perfect. It was so dark and menacing. And so he tells Johnny, he tells them that if they give him their child, they spare the child, he'll spare their earth. And so they tell him no, they're not giving up their child. Sue immediately gets in her motherly mode, and then, they immediately break out, and they chase out, and Silver Surfer chases after them, and she's flying after them, and they're trying to lose her, and Silver Surfer's trying to get her. They come up with a pretty intelligent way to lose her and flying back. They're flying back, and Silver Surfer's chasing after them, and they find a way to lose her. It's pretty smart how they come up with it. I believe that Mr. Fantastic comes up with it, and they're able to get out of there and get back to their Earth. When they get back, as soon as they get back, everybody's there, full press, full circuit. They're taking pictures, and they ask him, how did you defeat Galactus? They say, oh no, we didn't defeat him. And they go, okay, so what happened? And so he says, well, we went to talk to him, and they want our child. And they said if we give them our child, then they'll spare our Earth. But we refuse to give them their child, and the whole press conference erupts. They're like, why won't you give up the child and save our lives? Give up the child. Everybody's mad, and everybody's pissed off again at them. And this is a prime example of what I brought up about Superman, and how people can love you so much, and then one little thing and the whole world will turn on you just that quick, telling you should give up your child of all things. Now, mind you, on their trip, when they went out there to see Galactus, this is important. When they went out to see Galactus, the interaction with him caused Sue to kind of break out, her water to break. And on the ride back, when they were running back from Silver Surfer, she's basically having the child right there in the middle of flying in the air. I mean, man, the Fantastic Four, these superheroes, they live a whole different type of life. Just different, man. They having a child flying in space on their way back to Earth, trying to get away from the Silver Surfer. It's crazy. So they've had a child. Now, the world already knew Sue was pregnant. I believe they did tell them, and they were all wondering if the baby was going to have powers and all this good stuff, just like everybody, just like Johnny and Sue and everybody was wondering and trying to figure out. And so when they get back, they have that whole conversation. Everybody's mad. They're asking, they also asked Mr. Fantastic if he has a plan on how to stop Galactus, and he said he doesn't know yet. And so it looks real bad. That for one, he doesn't have a plan on how to stop him. Two, he's not willing to give up his kid to save all those lives. Everybody is pissed off at him. And so time goes on. In that time frame, I believe that Mr. Fantastic and Sue, they have an argument about the child, where she believes that he's thought about giving up the child, that it crossed his mind because she knows how he thinks. It's just unnecessary arguments going on, but it's a very stressful time. They possibly about to lose their planet, and this guy's coming trying to take their child. Their child has become more important than the planet. It's just crazy. So, Mr. Fantastic, he's trying to figure this thing out. And I believe at a certain point, Sue, a bunch of people come out. They're all outside their home. Sue comes out, and she tells the press they're not giving up their child. She shows them the child and understands how important the connection is from this child, and how this child is a part of their family, and how everybody is a part of their family. And I thought this was a very powerful scene. This powerful connection between them. And I think Mr. Fantastic comes out, and and he finally comes up with a plan on how to maybe avoid this whole situation. His plan is to set up these teleportation systems all over the world, where he's going to teleport the whole planet somewhere else. And that way Galactus, so far ahead that Galactus can't get to him, which can buy them enough time to maybe figure something else out before they get there. And so that's his plan. They tell the world their plan. I believe they tell it to him, and then they get the people to help them with the whole process. They end up setting up these things all over the world that is going to help teleport the whole planet out of there to another place. And they set all that up. They got their plan set, and Silver Surfer shows up, and she destroys all of them. She's destroying all the little the teleportation portal. She destroys all of them. But Johnny stops her from destroying the last one by talking to her in her own language. I believe Johnny, he stops her. Johnny has a couple run-ins with Silver Surfer. I mean, at one point he follows her up in the air, up into space, and he hears her say something before he falls. He tries to tell Mr. Fantastic about it, but he's working on his own thing to try to figure stuff out And he has that situation where he follows her up into space. He also has the moment where he talks to her when they go up into space, and then where he finally talks to her in her own language. I believe at one point he touches her board, and he kind of sees what she sees when she goes up in space. And what he sees is, I think there's a flash of her, and he learns that she actually gave up. She actually went out to go help him destroy planets so she could save her own planet. It also shows that she has a child that she's trying to spare as well. And so that right there, that little connection, that kind of scares Silver Surfer off, and she leaves before destroying that last portal, that teleportation portal that was built by Mr. Fantastic. So now their plan is messed up. So now they got to come up with a new plan. It takes him a minute, but Mr. Fantastic comes up with a plan to where he now says, instead, since he only has one teleportation thing left, he's going to teleport Galacticus to far away, so far away that it'll give him time to come up with another plan, maybe to teleport them out of there or something. He'll come up with something. And so that's now his new plan, now that Silver Surfer has destroyed all the things. And so I believe, so after that, they start to, calculate the plan. They're trying to figure out what's the best way to get Galacticus to fall through the transportation thing. And their goal to do that basically is to act like they're gonna go ahead and give up their child and use that child as bait, basically to get Galacticus to the portal so they can push him through it and send him all the way to the other side of the universe. Now, we don't know where he's sending Galactus. We don't know where he's going. We don't know what's going on. But remember, we're in a whole multiverse. So they could be sending Galacticus closer to the Earth that we know, for all we know. Or at least close enough to where he could be heading there. And so Galacticus is our big, big bad. This dude is huge. He's powerful. He's big. And he's dangerous. This dude devours planets. This is next level type villain. So it's a next level type villain. So anyway, they got the portal set up in the middle of the place. Galacticus shows up. He's huge, stomping everywhere. He's big, and he's looking. They're like ants to him. He's so freaking big. And I was just amazed how big this dude is. And it was just kind of great to finally get somebody this huge, this big in the MCU for the first time. I don't think we've ever had a big bad this powerful before. This is really next level type. This dude is a planet eater, destroys planets. And so, but anyway, so they use the bait. They pull out this cradle that looks exactly like, they pull out the baby carriage that they have. They have a copy of it, and they use that. They actually have the real baby there, but they switch the babies around and kind of trick Galacticus into thinking that they have the real one still there for him to get. But he sees that little portal there, and he knows something's up about it, so he avoids it. And he goes around it. I believe that but he doesn't go for the bait. He's not an idiot. He sees the little portal there, and he goes around it, and he goes over to their place. He breaks into their window, and I believe he gets the real baby. He gets them out of there, and now they got to stop him from taking their child. Um, and they fight Galactus at the end of the movie. They're fighting him, and they kind of partner together. Johnny is hitting him. The Thing, he's knocking off buildings to kind of like, to kind of help. Sue Storm shows how strong she is, where she uses her invisible power to really push him back as much as she can. At one point, Mr. Fantastic tries to attack. Mr. Fantastic tries to attack. He tries to attack him, and Galactus grabs him and stretches him out, stretches his body out, and pulls him. And so, like a slingshot, and Johnny and them, they help to break him free and get him out of there. And then his wife is hitting him with this superpower. She really shows her strength and how strong she is, because she's pushing Galactus back with this invisible power that she's using. Sue Storm is way stronger than you could ever imagine her being. And in this fight scene, you get to see all of them have a defining moment where they all hit Galactus with their power in some way, shape, or form to get him to that portal that they have set up to go. And Sue pushes him, and they're trying to get him there. And the last final push, Silver Surfer shows up and knocks Galactus into the portal. And he goes in, falls into the portal, and they save the day. They temporarily stop Galactus from getting to their kid. They stop Galactus from, from eating up their planet. They saved the day. And this movie was crazy. And so just a good movie, good story. They took valid origin story, because all of this is straight from the comic book, from Fantastic Four to them having the child, to him being his herald and taking all that's in the comic book. And I'm not going to get too much into detail because I don't know what Marvel's going to use and not going to. Y'all don't want to spoil anything for anybody that doesn't know anything. And I don't even know everything, but I know a little bit about, some of the things that are going on in the future just based on the comic book text. But of course, whatever it is, Marvel is going to take it and put their own spin on it, so it's not exactly the same. And so, just like they did with this movie. And so, I believe after the end credits, they kind of show the back of Doom kind of playing with the baby. Sue Storm and Mr. Fantastic's baby. He's kind of reaching out, touching him, and then it cuts off. They don't show his face. And so that's pretty much the whole movie right there. But I thought this movie was really, really good, man. I did. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Honestly, I personally think it was just as good as James Gunn's Superman. I did. This movie had a really good story, had good action. Silver Surfer was dope. It's not as action-packed as Superman, but the story, the emotional depth, the emotional connectivity is all there. I'm glad we didn't spend forever on an origin story. We've seen that twice already, and the second one was trash. But the first origin story, we've already seen it. We don't necessarily need it all over again, especially since we did kind of get a little short of it at the beginning of them going up in space. We kind of got it. So, this was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. This is the best Fantastic Four movie we've ever gotten, hands down. Really good movie. Super enjoyed it. They did a good job keeping up with the using, the comic book, the source material. They did a good job with the whole thing. It was just a good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Um, I'm gonna give it 4 popcorn buckets out of 5. Cause like I said, just as good as Superman, about the same rating. They both were good movies. I'm proud. I'm proud of where Marvel is going. I feel like I feel like it's in good hands in Marvel. I know people have been disappointed with all these Marvel movies, but I personally don't have a problem with a lot of these Marvel movies. I don't understand the hate that Marvel has been getting lately, man. Marvel has been doing a good job. I want to see Marvel and DC win in this. You know what I'm saying? For the longest time, it seems like Marvel has been up and DC has been down. But now that James Gunn is taking over, hopefully he can take DC in the right direction, and we can get, a Batman film for this universe, because the Batman is not canon in that universe. And in Marvel's case, Marvel can continue and give us a great Avengers Doomsday movie, and bring in our Galactus big bad. We finally can get the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and the Avengers all working together. Like, I'm just super excited for everything that they got going on. And honestly, if you know a little bit or somewhat about the text, about the comic book story, you kind of know what's here to come in these next few big movies in Marvel. You kind of know. And honestly, you kind of see it the way they're bringing all these old characters back in. They're 1,000% doing what you think they're doing if you know the comic book history. Me personally, I recommend people don't look too into the history, the comic book history, and just enjoy the movies. To me, the element of surprise is way more enjoyable than just knowing everything. That's my personal opinion. Some of the best movies I've ever seen, I didn't know anything about them, i.e. The Matrix. I didn't know nothing about that movie when I never seen a trailer, nothing. I didn't even know what we were going to see. I was a kid with my family, and I enjoyed that movie. I didn't know nothing about it. It was like I was just being introduced to a whole new world. And so the element of surprise is important. So you don't got to do any research or any background on anything comic book wise going forward. Just watch it and enjoy it. And then once they've made it, now you can go back and read the history and make comparisons and all that. But at least enjoy it for what it is on that first go round, without all the comparisons and without knowing everything. Trust me, it's way more enjoyable that way. But anyway, man, I appreciate you guys sticking with me, through this real review. And I'm out.